Hi, everybody. Shavua Tov. This is Eve Harrow, host of Rejuvenation on the Land of Israel Network. It is a beautiful day, another beautiful day in Jerusalem, July 1st, 2018, the 18th day of Tammuz, 5778. There's a lot of people fasting in Israel today because, well, really the fast should have been yesterday, the 17th day of Tammuz. But Shabbat, the Sabbath, is so important that except for Yom Kippur, except for the Day of Atonement, when a fast day falls out on Shabbat, and we're commanded to be joyous and to eat well, which we do, and to really immerse ourselves in the Shabbat, so we put the fast off until the next day. So the 18th day of Tammuz. So why are people fasting today in Israel? Well, this is the day that is considered like the beginning of destruction. There's a few different reasons why the 17th of Tammuz is a fast day. One of them is that this is when the Romans breached the walls of Jerusalem during the Second Temple period in the year 70, and 3 weeks later, on the 9th of Av, they destroyed the temple. And there are other reasons as well. And the one that I really kind of latched onto this year was that this was the day that Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moses, breaks the tablets. He comes down. It's been 40 days since Shavuot. It's been 40 days since receiving the Torah. Moses has broken, since he goes up to receive the Torah. He comes down now and he sees the sin of the golden calf, and he breaks the tablets. Then he goes back up, of course, and gets the new ones. But what I find so interesting about this is that, and I've seen it in my life, and I know that anybody who's like over the age of 18 has seen it themselves, is that you're only whole when you have been broken. That it is the stress lines that we have had and the difficult times that we've gone through that have made us who we are today. And that's actually why in the Ark of the Covenant, in the Aron HaBrit that was kept in the Holy of Holies, both in the tabernacle and also in the temple, of course, at least the first temple, then it was hidden, and we did not have it in the second temple, were the whole tablets, the new set, and also the broken ones. And I think that says a lot. And it says a lot about also, this is now the middle of Tammuz. So the 9th of Av and the tremendous sin of the 9th of Av, we talked about a few weeks ago, which is the sin of the spies, and who come back, right? They see the land, they see the bounty of the land, and they misinterpret it, and they're afraid. The awe turns into fear. Theme of mine, as those of you who have been listening to me for a while know. They go back to the desert with a big bunch of grapes and the figs and the pomegranates. And except for Joshua and Caleb, they say, we're not going to be able to go. So that means if they were in the land for 40 days, and the land and the bulk of the time that they were here was during the month of Tammuz. We have choices, right? They're here during this time, and they have choices to make. They have choices about what they see and what they're going to do with what they see. So Tammuz can be a month, not of like we go into these 3 weeks and we're not going to have weddings here in Israel, and a lot of Jews will not have weddings, will not have joyous occasions during these 3 weeks. We kind of try and dial things down a little bit and have a sense of mourning, try not to buy new things, and or people go on vacation, but you just try and like keep it low, because it's traditionally been 3 weeks that are not such a great vibe for the Jewish people, if you will. And the last 9 days from the beginning of Av till the 9th of Av, definitely. But we'll talk about that in the next couple of weeks. But the fact is that it didn't have to be like this. And Tammuz was a month of choices. And unfortunately, we still have spies in the land, although when you read Shlach Lecha, when you read that portion about the spies, it doesn't say that they were spying. It doesn't say Rigul. It says La Torah Ta'aretz. They were scouting out the land. So unfortunately, we still have spies in the land, and we still have spies of our people in the land. And for those of you who listened to Ari and Jeremy's show a couple of days ago, you know exactly what's going on with the farm, with Ibei Nachal, and with people from Peace Now, from the Israeli left, who are coming and are going to try and destroy the farm, just as they have put into play other situations to destroy other Jewish homes. Instead of using their so-called connections to the local Arabs in order to bring upon more peace and coexistence, which those of us who live in Judea and Samaria already have to a great degree with a lot of the people that are living here, something that rarely makes the news. Instead, they're trying to foment hatred and to incite the Arabs to put out claims against land that may or may not be theirs and take it to court. And the Arabs are never going to be able to use the land anyway, but just to get it away from the Jews. And so there's certain themes that just repeat themselves over and over and over again. And so sadly, there are people who could be touring the land. There could be people who went to Ibn Nachal to meet with Ari and Jeremy to see the beauty of what they're doing there on a hill that was totally barren, that's now covered with vineyards and with olive trees and with children playing and people coming to visit and just an awesome view out to the Dead Sea and to Moab. But instead, they have turned themselves from scouts into spies. And that is just so sad, that the lessons that the Torah is telling us so clearly where it ends. It's not like, okay, well, we're not sure. It's right out there. We know exactly how this ends. And we know exactly the punishment for speaking ill of the land, for trying to hurt other Jews. And it really breaks my heart. It'd be easy to go into anger, and there should be. And there is anger there, people doing that. But really, when I sit alone with it, just a tremendous and overwhelming feeling of sadness that after all these years, still, we have people doing the same thing. And on the other side, we have Israelis who are helping Syrians. The Israeli army, in a very complicated maneuver, has brought in some Syrian refugees into Israel, some more Syrian refugees, because over the past few years of the terrible Syrian civil war, Israel has been sending a tremendous amount of humanitarian aid and also bringing Syrians into our hospitals. And we don't have an overabundance of hospital beds, I must tell you. As it is, we have a shortage. But Israel's been doing that. Ironically, many of the refugees from the civil war have been gathering close to the Israeli border because they're hoping that Assad won't attack them there out of fear of retaliation from Israel, and also because they know that they'll get help from Israel. So here you have Israelis helping our enemies because we feel on a humanitarian level that that is the right thing to do. And then people from within who are doing their utmost to break apart relationships and to really cause hatred and to cause enmity and to cause difficulty here in the land. And it just, you see these things just repeat and repeat and repeat themselves over and over. But yesterday, in terms of the portion of the week yesterday, we have Balak, the king of Moab, who hires Bilam, the true prophet, real prophet, the Midianite, to curse us. And he's not able to do so. And what was so amazing to me is I went for a walk yesterday afternoon in the hills of Ephrat, where I live in Judea, and I could clearly see Moab. I could clearly see across the rift into what is now Jordan. And because I was there a few years ago with a group with Tanakh in hand, with the Bible in the hand, one of the things that we did is explore where it was that Bilam went to, because there's 3 different occasions he tries to get closer and closer to the camp of the Israelites in order to see us more clearly, and then maybe the curses will take effect. And when we were there, we did that. We kind of like followed his route. First he's on this hill, and then he's on this hill, and then he's on a place where he can see the whole camp that's down in the Jordan River Valley. And that, just to look over there and see that and understand that he tried to curse us, and blessings came out of his mouth. So that ultimately, even the people that try and hurt us, even the people that try and curse us from within or from without, if Hashem wills it, if God wills it, those curses will come out as blessings, and they won't be able to do that. And so we have this on the ground, and we have the day-to-day, which does cause a lot of disruption and upset. But on the other hand, we have the ultimate Iron Dome, which is Hashem, who is protecting us. And when he wills it, then he will make sure that the good things will happen. And so I have on my show today some people who have suffered greatly from very bad choices that were made, also by the Israeli government, which is that they got thrown out of their homes 13 years ago. So I'll be right back with my guest for today from the former Netzarim in Gaza.
You're listening to the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com, broadcasting the truth and beauty of Israel to the world. Hi,
everybody. Eve Harrow still on Rejuvenation for the Land of Israel Network. Once again, still July 1st, 2018, the 18th day of Tammuz, 5778. And I am on the line with Tami Zilbershein, who used to live in Netzarim in the Gaza Strip, has now lived in Ariel. And Tami, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
You're welcome.
I know it's the first day of vacation for the kids, July 1st. The school year ended, so I'm sure there's a big balagan in your house. But I'm glad that you came on the line. That the what's happening in Gaza never seems to be out of the news, and the last few weeks even more so, with the balloons and the fires, and it's always in my heart, in my mind. I lived there for the last summer in Neve Kalim. I moved down there with my family, and I was there until the last day, which in no way even approaches what you went through. But at least I was able to try and be with all of you a little bit in something that I still think was one of the most devastating things that has ever happened in this country. So tell us a little bit maybe about how long were you living in Netzarim before the expulsion? I will not call it a disengagement. Before the expulsion in 2005. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Randolph, New Jersey, and I made Aliyah 30 years ago. And I had the unique privilege of living in Netzarim from 1996 till the expulsion. For 9 years, I lived in Netzarim.
With your family? You're married?
Yes. Well,
yes.
I came married. I was with one child, and when at the time of the expulsion, I was pregnant with my sixth child.
Wow. So that child never knew life in Netzarim.
No, but it was very meaningful to me that I was pregnant with him at the time of the expulsion. That he also was influenced by Netzarim and Gush Katif, and that we're continuing the spirit, and he's continuing in the same spirit of Gush Katif.
So, a lot of times people just talk about Gush Katif, but really, for those who knew the nuances better, so Gush Katif was the groupings of a lot of settlements, Gush meaning block. Right. As my listeners know, I live in Gush Etzion, which is the block of communities in Etzion. But Netzarim was really by itself, had its own access road, and really, so somebody said to me the other day, because we were talking about what had happened, and they said, well, you know what, the people from Gush Katif, or from the Jews who lived in Gaza, close to 10,000 Jews, are safer now. Yes, there's a bigger mess with Hamas, but they're safer now because they used to get attacked all the time when they lived there. So is that true? Do you feel that when you were there, you were living in the war zone and now not so much? Or have things gotten so much worse? Have people forgotten what it was like? Can you bring us back a little bit to what those years were like?
Okay, well, when we moved to Netzarim, it was already, as you explained, it was secluded. It was cut off from the rest of the block of Gush Katif. It was once established as part of the whole block. We used to drive freely south and north to other Gush Katif settlements. And with the Oslo agreements, the military situation the security situation became very sensitive and difficult in Netzarim. We were completely cut off. We were completely an excluded community. We had our own access road. We could only go in with army vehicles. And yes, it was a situation. I mean, we were on a mission to live there and to settle there. And yes, it was a very difficult security situation while we lived there. Terrorist infiltration, shootings, bombs. We were there as a how do you say, a shlichut. We were there
it's a mission
in order to settle the land, and to say that just like one person once said, that Netzarim is like the land, is like the state of Israel, a small excluded area surrounded by terrorists and people who don't want us to be here. And just like we wouldn't give up on Israel, we wouldn't give up on Netzarim, and that's why we had the mission of staying there. Even though it was difficult going in, and it had its challenges, but it was a tremendous privilege to be there, and it was a tremendous mission to be there. And I feel that the security situation of Israel as a whole has gone down because Gush Katif has been expelled from the land. Right. And as we see, the situation down in the south is much worse, and Hamas is in charge of all of the area of the Gaza Strip. Right. And it's very, very extreme terrorists ruling there, and the situation of the people, the settlements that live around near Gaza is very, very difficult right now. And I think that if we would have stayed, then certainly we would have had the army inside of Gush Katif, and we would be able to stop and prevent a lot of what's happening today, and at least have it not as close to the boundary as it is now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know if people remember, but the pictures from Netzarim, among all the pictures that were taken in that horrific summer of 2005, which started on the 9th of Av, the expulsion, was the picture of the menorah coming down from your synagogue in Netzarim, which for anybody who's familiar with the Arch of Titus in Rome and that whole idea of the menorah being carried out of the temple and being carried out of a synagogue, which was, of course, against all human decency. The synagogue is, of course, later on destroyed as well, and that was a particularly poignant and terrible reminder of Jews being exiled from their land. And was it worse for you that it was a Jewish government doing this, that it was soldiers that came to do this as opposed to an enemy?
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, the situation of Jews expelling Jews from the land of Israel is and it's surrealistic. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. It's incomprehensible.
Right.
That the Jewish people were so disengaged from themselves that they were able to expel Jews from the land and give it to terrorists, and for nothing, for really didn't receive anything in return, not peace or not anything. And I think it was a particularly horrible situation that we've come to.
And it's still continuing today, which I spoke about a few minutes before, the efforts still that some Jews are making in order to hurt other Jews, and that's beyond painful.
Yes.
So what happened in the interim? So in the last 13 years, because one of the things that, obviously this is always on my mind, but now is the bar mitzvah year. This summer is 13 years since the expulsion, and the children who were born in that summer and soon after, as you had a child as well, are now the boys. The girls are had the bat mitzvah, and the boys are now being bar mitzvah. So going into adulthood, not having been home or having to make new homes. So what's been happening with your family in the last 13 years?
Well, with the expulsion, they accepted us there in the caravans in the in the student dormitories
in Ariel,
and we had to make a decision in Ariel.
Right.
And the entire settlement was there in Ariel together for the first 2 months. And we had to make a decision what was the correct response to the expulsion. And one response was to create a new settlement because one settlement was ruined, so we want to make a new Jewish agricultural Torah settlement in the Negev. So many went down to there, and some of us felt that the correct answer to the disengagement, to the expulsion, is to connect to the nation of Israel, to help them connect to the land of Israel and the Torah of Israel. And we want to stay here in the city, in the capital of the Shomron, and be influential and reach out to our brothers and help them understand what we're doing here after 2,000 years of exile, and why we've come back, and what the vision is and what the mission is. And we wanted to have an influence on the people that we want to connect and be with our nation, with all. I mean, Ariel is a very heterogeneous population, religious, non-religious, Fardi, Ashkenazi, Olim Chadashim.
Many Russians, right.
Many Russians and
new immigrants from Russia, right.
Immigrants. So it's a very, very heterogeneous, and it really reflects the situation of the state of Israel with a very heterogeneous population. And we want to be in touch with all of our brothers and help them connect to the state of Israel, connect to the Torah of Israel, and to our unique privilege of living in the state of Israel, which is part of the salvation, part of the redemption. And
to the bigger picture, to the history, it's not just another country. It was never just another country.
Right.
Exactly.
No.
So was that a discussion between you and your husband, whether to go down to Bnei Netzarim, which I'm quite familiar with, which is also having its issues right now? It's on the corner between the Gaza and Sinai. So they've got terrorists, like on a lot of different sides. Was there a question? Were you thinking of going down there, or you always knew that you wanted to stay in Ariel?
No, it was a question. We debated what was the right thing to do, and what was the right thing for us to do. What was more fitting for us? We feel that both, as the rabbi said, they cut off one Netzarim and they got two Netzarim. Netzarim is the translation of a Netzarim is an offshoot from the roots of a tree. So they got two trees, and both of them are very important values and very important ideals. And I'm very proud of my my sisters and brothers that are living in B'nai Netzarim. In fact, my son is now learning in a high school an agricultural Torani high school that they established there. So we're still very close to them, but we made a decision that we're going to stay here in the Shomron. The answer of a social mission spoke to us more. We thought it was more fitting for us, and I had the privilege of being part of the beginning of a midrasha that we opened here in the university, that we reach out to students and teach them Torah, and that's a very unique privilege and a zchut that I have. And we really feel that it's important, so we stayed here.
Are you educators?
Yeah, I'm an educator. So is my husband. He's now working as an engineer, but he was a rabbi. He learned for many years as a kollel student and taught many years. And we both try to reach out and teach and do kiruv. Yeah.
So to bring people closer, as an aside, many of my listeners are very steeped in the Bible and Tanakh, and the word Netzarim, so Netzer Yishai, which means the offshoot of Yishai, is very often used in the Bible, I think specifically in Yeshayahu, as referring to David, referring to King David. And so that's why, for those of you who don't yet know Hebrew, so you should know that is the source of the name Netzarim. Now, is it true that you did not get compensated fully or at all by the government because you chose to stay in the Shomron at the time? There were discussions because a lot of people from Gush Katif wanted to come into Yudav Shomron, still that same ideology. And my understanding is we're told the government, the last thing they wanted was 10,000 people now moving into Yudav Shomron. And so that those of you who decided to stay in Ariel really paid another price for that choice?
Yes. Because we stayed in the Shomron, and apparently there was an agreement between Sharon and Bush that the refugees from Gush Katif would not be in Yehuda v'Shomron. And because we decided to stay here, dafka to stay here, we don't have any government recognition as a community. We did receive personal,
compensation?
We received money as a compensation as families. Of course, that was also a fight. You had a lot of bureaucracy, etc.
Yes.
But not as a community. We didn't have any government recognition as a community. We didn't have karavilot. We didn't
any of the infrastructure to restart.
Infrastructure, right? Nothing.
Wow. So I understand that you're with Ilai Feldman.
Donations.
Right. And a lot of difficulties. And for many, many years, I would go to Ariel because I'm in Ariel a lot. One of my daughters lives in Ilai, really just across the street from Ariel. And as a tour guide, I'm just also in the Shomron a lot. I think I'm also on the board of governors of Ariel University, but that's a whole other discussion. But I was, but Ilai Feldman, who I believe is sitting with you and whom I'd like to put on the line right now, is actually the one with whom I've been in touch for the last couple of days. And he is very instrumental now in really getting your community kind of out there more. Can you put him on the line? Can you switch with him? Tami, I'll get back to you. Don't go away.
Okay. Here's Ilai.
Okay.
Hi, shalom.
Ilai, hi. Good morning. So now tell us a little bit about your connection to Tami and your connection to the community of Netzarim. You were not, thankfully, somebody who was thrown out of your home. You've come in and joined them now. So what are you doing for them? What are you doing with them, and what are you doing for them?
Okay, first of all, in the last 2 years, I'm working as the general manager of the community.
Okay.
I live in the Jordan Valley, and I came, like I said, 2 years ago to the community. The community is a non-profit organization, so we do projects here in Ariel in order for the Society of Israel. Things like we do youth at risk or helping needed families. We have a lot of projects in the Ariel University that we teach, like Tami said, and I'm in charge of all these projects.
So
I have to say,
go ahead.
I have to say that even though I don't live in Ariel and in the community of Netzarim, I fell in love in this community because when you see here, 13 years ago, 20 families. Today we have 100 families in the community that are working and doing things in Ariel in favor of the Israeli society. And I think that's the main lesson that we can take from the disengagement.
Right, which I won't call disengagement, but okay. Call it an expulsion because it was not just like somebody decided to break up. Okay, it was an active, horrible act. So what you're saying is that a lot of families who originally did not live in Netzarim have been inspired by these people and have come to join them in their next mission in Israel?
Yes.
Wow.
You have to understand the numbers. 20 families came from Netzarim. 80 families more didn't even live in Netzarim. So I think that's the big success of all this spirit that came from Netzarim to Ariel.
Right.
And I pray that it's going to be hundreds more.
And look, I can see, as somebody who's been going to Ariel for many years, I can see a change in Ariel. You know, you go around, first of all, many more of the restaurants there, because I'm always looking for places to eat with people. Many more of the restaurants there are kosher, are understanding that, you know, that there's a special dietary needs and dietary laws. And I see more of I just see more of a community, more of a traditional community. And I've been seeing the changes. Now, for many years, they lived in just like caravans, in mobile homes. The last couple of years, they have now moved into apartment buildings. Yes?
Yeah, like Tami said, for above 10 years, something like that, they lived in caravans. And only the last 2.5 years, they passed to their houses, to their permanent houses. And we need to understand that. I'll give an example, like Tami said, that we weren't recognized by the government. Only 10 months ago, or 1 year, or something like that, we received money to build a daycare center like it was in Netzarim. So you need to understand 12 years, if it was 1 year ago, 12 years after the expulsion, we received money to build, and we're now in the next weeks, a couple of weeks, we're going to start to build the day center.
Wow.
So it's something incredible. 20%, something like that, of the community in Ariel that call themselves traditional.
Okay.
And we don't want to make Ariel a religious city. We want to live here with all Am Israel.
Exactly.
We want to bring Judaism. We want to bring Yahadut and teach and everything we said like until now. But this is living, like Tami said, this is living with the Israeli society as is she.
Right, exactly. No, that's what we need to do. And I think that's a very important message, because I think a lot of people, specifically in the United States now, but also in other places around the world, talk about tolerance and talk about pluralism, but really want to live with people who are just like them and think like them. And the challenge is to be able to live with people who are different than you are, who see things differently, but respect each other, love each other, protect each other, and feel like one nation and one people without that dividing you. And I think that really, and I've seen it in Ariel, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And also that our national mission is the same, to establish a homeland for the Jewish people, whatever that means, reestablish it, whatever that means, everybody's interpretation, and we have to do it together.
I want to tell you a story, if I can.
Please.
Interrupt. We are now in the middle of raising money for all the projects in Ariel, in the middle of a Head Start project. And in the last Shabbat, Rabbi Tzion Tawil is the rabbi of the community, told everyone in Shabbat morning prayer tefillah, and told everyone before we take out the Sefer Torah from the Aron Kodesh and read it.
Before we take the book, the Torah scrolls out of the ark
so
where they're kept.
He asked from all the people in the synagogue, please sit down, and he talked 5-7 minutes about the importance of the fact that the Torah can't stay in the Aron Kodesh. It needs to go out to the community, to the public, in order to meet and see all our Judaism and how Am Israel, even though we are different today from one each other, what is the main base of all of our society. And I think that's the main spirit of Netzarim that came to Ariel, in order to explain what it means.
Right. And the fact that that could happen 13 years ago, I think because maybe there was an undercurrent of some Israelis not caring so much about what's happening to other Israelis. And look, we're seeing that to some degree today also, and the people in the Gaza envelope who are having flying fire balloons come at them all the time, and are possibly not feeling that other people care as much as they should. And that's something that we all need to, because at any point in time, someone's on the front. Someone's on the front line, and we all need to care about each other. And without that, the country's not going to last. Doesn't matter what our outside enemies do if we're not strong on the inside. Okay, so any particular plans? Like, so what is where is the funding going to that you're collecting for now?
We're doing we're doing fundraising for specifically for 4 projects. One for youth at risk, one for helping needed family, one for the Judaism culture that we're teaching in Ariel University, and one for we have another project that is it's called it's involved with the mayor here in Ariel, where we're helping families, not needed families, but families that need people that will come to help them if they need clothes, things like that. That's the four projects that we're raising money for that.
Amazing.
And it's ending next weekend, Thursday. Next Thursday we're gonna finish with the fundraising, and we'll be happy for every help here from the public and who can help us.
Right. And also to go and visit. And if you're in Israel, go to Ariel, see them, visit them, see what they have done. They just could have said, like, we're done with this country, we're done with all of this. But instead, they want to connect more and engage more. And that is nothing to be taken for granted. Okay, thank you so much, Ilai Feldman. Can you put Tami back on for a minute?
Yeah.
A couple of things that I want to talk to her. My pleasure. Bye-bye. Hi, Tami. So I can't help but ask you also, as a mother, one of my children who was down with me 13 years ago, and again, we weren't residents there. We'd gone to visit many, many times in Gush Katif. We had many good friends who lived there and were farmers there. But one of my sons, who was 16 years old at the time, and I remember him yelling at the soldiers. And I thought to myself, oh my God, here he is, 16. And he saying to the soldiers, I'm going into the army soon. I love the army. I look up to you. What are you doing? How can you be taking Jews out of their homes? And one of the things that happened after the expulsion, there was concern that those of you who actually had soldiers taking you out of your homes, that your children would say this army is not for us. So I assume that in the intervening years, some of your kids have gotten bigger, have gotten to that, and they've all gotten bigger, thank God, have come to the age. What have you seen it with your own children, or what have you seen with some of the other families who were thrown out of their homes? What in the end happened?
Because we're a very strong community with very strong emunah in what's happening in the land of Israel in the last hundreds of years, that we've come back, and that we have a state and we have an army, and that has tremendous spiritual ramifications for us as a people. So thank God that ideology, that ideology is very strong, and we were able as a community, and also my children, to separate. I have a son right now who's the Faked. He's a mem in Golani,
a commander.
And very proud to be in the army.
In a combat unit. In a combat unit.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And that was very important to him. And we're very big believers and supporters of the army, even though the army and the government made mistakes. But we still believe in the state of Israel, and we still believe in the country of Israel, the state of Israel, and the army is very important to us. Just like when you have a child, if a child goes the wrong way, I don't stop celebrating his birthday. I still thank Hashem that he was born, and I believe in him. So we too think the state of Israel was born, and we believe in the state of Israel. We believe in the army, and we hope that they won't continue to make mistakes, even though they've made mistakes. They've made very deep and grave mistakes that we felt on ourselves. But that doesn't stop our belief. And the emunah that we're in the beginning of a redemption, and that we have the tremendous privileged part of Israel coming back to itself, the people of Israel coming back to Israel, and so Baruch Hashem, we celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut, and my children serve in the army very proudly.
So I want my listeners to understand that this is not something to be taken for granted. The pain and the even the sense of betrayal that I would say had happened among the people from Gaza, and also the 4 communities in the Northern Shomron, where people are also thrown out of and the communities were destroyed, easily could have said, I'm done with this country. I gave so much. I lived here. There was terrorism all around me, and we planted and we did, and we came to a difficult situation, and then the thanks that we got was to get thrown out of our homes. I'm done with this, and that's not what happened. If anything, as you're explaining, you engaged even deeper with Israeli society to say, we have to make sure this doesn't happen again. The only way for that to happen is for people to connect more strongly, and if there's kids at risk, or if there's people who maybe don't understand the bigger picture of the Torah, not even in a religious sense, but in a sense of our historical mission and our historical memory and our future together, then we have to work harder to make that happen. And if the army made mistakes, then we have to get involved with the army and be a strong influence and show that no matter what, we're going to look past this and see a bigger picture. And that, I have to tell you, Tami, is something that alone has engendered so much respect for you in Israeli society, even among people who might not have thought your mission was good to begin with, that you shouldn't have gone to Gush Katif, and what were you doing there? What you guys have done, and you're showing your loyalty and your love for the state of Israel and for the Jewish people, has earned you a lot of respect that you may not even know in all sectors of Israeli society. And that's where really I wanted to have you on today and make sure that people around the globe also understand that, because what I was talking about before you got on the line was the month of Tammuz, and the month of Tammuz is a month of potential. It doesn't have to go south. It doesn't have to be choices that are made that lead to the sin of the spies, or that lead to the destruction of the temple, or that lead to the breaking of the tablets, as Moshe Rabbeinu did. We all have. The only thing we have in our lives that is truly ours is the choices that we make and how we react to things in our lives. And those of you who lived in Netzarim and who I hope one day can somehow go back in a different situation, obviously, than a terrorist state, and I know that none of you are ever going to let that go, have made choices that are truly that inspire everybody. And I just wanted you to know that on top of everything else. Really.
Thank you very much. You explained it very beautifully. And I'm turning to the people to help us continue the spirit of Netzarim, the spirit of Gush Katif, help us continue so we can prevent Khalila or other disengagements and other mistakes that our country will make. Okay.
And I know it has to be painful for you to see now what's happening around Gaza and how it just got worse.
Sure. So we're turning to you to help us continue.
Do you have a website? Do you have a website?
I'll give you Ilai, and he'll explain to you how to click in. Okay, he'll send an attachment, a link.
Okay, fine, and I'll put that in the text.
All of the projects that we've done, that we're doing in Ariel, and we're doing the name of the project is Mamshifim et Ruach Netzarim, continuing the spirit of Netzarim. That's the name of the project in Head Start. Okay, Give Back. What? Give Back. It's called
Give Back. Okay. All right, I'll get the details from him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and I hope that you have a wonderful summer with your children and a peaceful summer. And thank you for everything that you have done.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that was Tami Zilbershein, originally from New Jersey, and then made Aliyah 30 years ago, which is when I made Aliyah. Her choice was to move to Gush Katif, where she ended up losing her home 13 years ago, along with close to 10,000 other Israelis, in what was probably the single biggest mistake that the state of Israel ever made. Maybe Oslo was the biggest mistake, and then that followed from that. And a lot of people now paying the price. And hopefully we'll have learned our lessons and make different choices when the situation arises in the future, as it arises all the time. So wishing really from here wisdom to our leaders, because ultimately that's what it comes down to when you live in a democracy and you elect your leaders, not like has all over the Middle East, where people are just willy-nilly killed and pushed around and whatever it is by their totalitarian regimes, absolute monarchies, dictators, and just flat out really, really bad guys. But here in Israel, because they made the choice many, many decades ago that this country should be a democracy, also not to be taken for granted, because the founders of this state did not come from democracies, and the choice was made that this should be a democracy, and it is a truly very vibrant democracy. But that means that we have the choice to choose our leaders, and we have to hope that they make the right choices. They have a lot of information in front of them that we, the general public, do not have, and shouldn't have either. We shouldn't all know everything, because everything we know, our enemies also know. But hoping that they make those wise choices to lead the people, because the stakes are very high. But ultimately, as I started off the broadcast saying, ultimately Hashem will turn those curses into blessings, and we just have to do our part to make sure that we deserve them. And so I've done my part, I hope, this morning. Eve Harrow for the Land of Israel Network, my show Rejuvenation. Those of you who are in the land, still room on my bus for Thursday. You can come and visit the Southern Shomron Hills with me. We've got a great day planned. You can reach me through One Israel Fund, www.oneisraelfund.org, and sign up for my trip. On Thursday, there's another trip in a few weeks, and there will be the famous wine tour, although I think the bus is almost full for that one at the end of August. So I will continue in my own little way to open up people's eyes and hearts to the beauty of the land, the beauty of the people in the land, the beauty of the Torah, and that what we're doing here is so, so much bigger than it appears. Thank you all so much for listening, and have a wonderful week. Shavua Tov from Jerusalem, with many thanks, as usual, to Ben and to Tabitha and to everybody on the station. And just also to know that to Ari and Jeremy and all of us who are so tied in with the farm and with the Beinachal, many of us were there just last week for a barbecue that one of our supporters, someone who very much admires the station and feels that what we're doing is so important. He came to Israel with his family, and he said, guys, come over for some hot dogs and for some steak. So we were there enjoying that and, and feeling the love of people who are very far away, but appreciate what we're doing, because really we're all in this together. So I don't know what it is that you're doing, but you better be doing something, because if the good guys of this world don't stand together, then we don't stand a chance. Eve Harrow, Rejuvenation on the Land of Israel Network. Shavua Tov, everybody. Goodbye for now.
Josh Haston here, host of Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Radio Network at thelandofisrael.com. Make sure you check out my show every Monday, bringing you the news unfiltered and uncensored, information that you are not getting anywhere else, especially not in the mainstream media.
Israel Uncensored with Josh Haston on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.